Hello, everybody. Welcome to our range tasting and introduction of Pour le Vin range. My name is Julie and I'm French product manager for Boutinot International. And today I'm joined by Guillaume Létang, winemaker for Vin de France and Languedoc, and your buddy on the project, which is Eric Monin, head winemaker at Boutinot. Hello, guys.
Bonjour. Hello.
So today, tremendously excited to be talking about what has been really one of our most popular French range in the past 2 years, which is Pour le Vin. So what, Eric, you describe as an energetic, dynamizing French range, which is so focusing on Vin de France, grape varieties from all across the French region. So before we start delving into the details of the range, thank you for everybody who's tuning in today to listen to us talking about wine again. Luckily, you've been receiving the cutest little bottle on the planet. Eric, you've got some as well. And you are prepared for a super fun and relaxed tasting today. We're going to go through 2 whites, 1 rosé, and 2 red with our winemakers.
Julie, if the customers don't have enough in the small bottles, we can download a bit of the wine through the USB key.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. That's Pour le Vin, guys, obviously this is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek. What we're trying to do with Pour le Vin, which is pour the wine and for the wine. I have to give a little bit of credit to Catherine Smith, which was a head of national accounts, who created this whole concept around interesting and funny French wine. Can you just tell us a little bit more? When you got tasked with the project of making really good, great value for money, entry-level French wine, why did you go with Vin de France? What's the concept behind all this wine, guys?
Yeah, Julie, you spoke about approachability, and it's exactly the good term. We wanted to create a range with a lot of accessibility from tasting and wine point of view in terms of style. Obviously, Vin de France permit us to have flexibility in our choice and really select plot or area where we think that the grape variety that we want to put in bottle has a perfect reflection of what we want to be. So yes, Vin de France was an obvious area, I would say.
When you give us the project, obviously, I mean, everybody's French in this meeting. So for us, the expression we are using, by the way, and we thought for French expression, let's go for Vin de France. Simple, French, France, no complication, easy solution.
And in any cases, we wanted to highlight more the grape variety than a specific appellation or specific area. The focus was the grape variety, the pure reflection of the grapes, and not necessarily a specific area.
So I think, yeah, we both agree. So there's been 2 angles with that range, really. So there's been a clear stylistic approach. We've talked about it so many times. We're not pretending here to make, very, we make outstanding great value for money with this range. And I think, what we're trying to stay very simple and straight to the point with this wine with I think it's actually a bit even more difficult exercise. And there is also the educational angle, because we want people to have fun. Because I think sometimes people might get a little bit lost with the whole very complex French appellation system between AOPs and cru. Here on the bottle, what you've got is loads of colors. You've got you're getting a French lesson at the same time, and you're treating yourself to a very, super easy and, colorful wines. Guillaume, would you actually agree that potentially making wine with that sort of quality and remaining constant in terms of the style is perhaps a little bit more difficult than any other project? Staying on Vin de France, remaining, keeping that quality constant, would you say it's actually even more difficult than other wines?
Yes, and the aim of this winemaking process is really it's kind of a bit of lesson of analogy and we want to put in bottle the picture of the grapes. Every year it is a challenge to try to find the consistency and the good picture of the grapes. That's why sometimes we can change a little bit the area, depending on the vintage, depending on the impact of the vintage. Yeah.
So, because obviously, so I think we're going to crack on with the tasting, because obviously what we're trying to do here, so each wines are going really well in association with the idioms that we've picked specifically for this wine. So we try to push the boundaries a little bit. It's just not all the wines are going to have a link with the French idioms because we're trying to tell a story, and we're trying to, just give a little bit of a, like we said, just people having a little bit of fun. Because sometimes, for example, when I think about all these wines, what you guys have done with, for example, the Sauvignon Blanc for the Foie de Canard, what you've done is, when we ask you your best interpretation of a Sauvignon Blanc, you could have gone, different flavor profile, but I think you've managed to tick all the boxes. And, it's a really, all the wines are really crowd pleaser. So if we start with the Sauvignon Blanc, Guillaume, that you've got. So yeah, I think we'll start with, so everybody now, you can see on your screen. So this is the phonetics of how you pronounce Foie de Canard. So just to let you know a little bit more about the expression, because all the expressions are like historically quite famous. Do you guys say that all the time? Because my parents say it all the time. I say it all the time. Do you say Foie de Canard quite often as well?
Yeah, that's something we use. It's the polite version that we use also a lot with the kids, by the way.
Yeah. So Foie de Canard, is it like freezing cold? So for you, what was the link with the wine? So what did you think? What's the link between the expression and the wine?
Yeah. So on this wine, the aim was to push and focus on the freshness of the Sauvignon. Sauvignon, it's an interesting grape variety for winemakers because depending on the ripeness you pick the Sauvignon, you can have a huge palette of aroma and a huge different wine. From the time, for example, if you pick very early a Sauvignon, you will be on green asparagus flavor, vegetal flavor, but vegetal in a good way. And the more you pick later the grape, if you push the ripeness, you will be on the exotic flavor, etc. So for this Sauvignon, the point is to focus on the freshness. We try to find a good compromise between the vegetal flavor and the exotic flavor. We are more focused on this wine on the citrus, the grape variety. Obviously, we push very hard the liveliness, not too sharp, but just zippy and zingy as we want to be. And in order to have a product very mouth-watering, very refreshing, and try to have a kind of polyvalent style of Sauvignon to fit to everyone.
And I think, Guillaume, honestly, you've done an amazing job here. Again, I say because, well, number one, huge fan of the range. If you're tasting our guest joining us today, please make sure you pop the comments on the side. Let us know what you think of the wine. I think you've got a lot going on here, Guillaume, because we've got, like you said, so the vegetal sort of limey, super like lifting notes on the wines. And at the end, you get this sort of like tropicality and this exotic element. It's ticking all the boxes, drinking really fresh right now. Definite Foie de Canard. Just to let people know a little bit more about the expression. So Foie de Canard actually means like a duck's cold, because when it gets cold in the winter, especially so in France, the ducks can't land on the lakes because it's freezing cold. So they have to go into moving waters. So therefore, when it gets cold, you get to see more ducks in France. So hence the little pun on it's a Foie de Canard, meaning when it gets cold, you see more duck. So this is the story behind the wine. So yeah, I mean, a pretty good one to start with. now we're going to be moving on to Chardonnay, I believe.
Yeah, Chardonnay.
Yeah.
So Chardonnay, previously we spoke about the flexibility of the selection of the fruit. Chardonnay, it's the best example of it. For Chardonnay, we are working with two different regions, and we play with the blend. We are playing with an opulent Chardonnay from the sea border in Languedoc-Roussillon. So we bring a generous Chardonnay with opulent style, very fruity, and we beef up the blend. We beef up the acidity of the blend with Gascony component to wake up the blend, calm down the opulence of the Chardonnay, and at the end have a master acidity balance in the product. In all of our product, we have a good acidity. In all the Boutinot range, the acidity it's one of our flagship. On Chardonnay, it's quite difficult to have aroma of Chardonnay without opulence and sometimes too flabby, too lush. That's why we have the opportunity to play with different area and make the most of each region, each area to have at the end something really tailor-made on what we want to achieve on the Chardonnay style like this.
Actually, guys, I'm kind of laughing because I see we've got great activity going on the chat. I don't know if you can see, but we've got some mediums coming from Manchester. Hopefully we'll get more in the future. We've got a question from Brazil, actually, that potentially, Guillaume, you can answer. So on the Sauvignon Blanc and the Chardonnay, do we do harvested by machine or do we do hand picking on the grapes? How do we keep the freshness from a grape point of view? How do we achieve that?
Yeah. So the date of the picking is very important for us to keep the freshness, to keep the acidity. Acidity is a real support of aroma and one of the key for the mouthfeel and the fineness of the product. Yes, we use harvesting machine for this wine, just because we are working in a hot area, so we do prefer work during night with harvesting machine to pick very fresh product, to press at the optimum temperature fresh grapes, rather than to pick by hand during the day and to have a problem of temperature on the fruit. It's better to start the winemaking process with fresh grapes. To be honest, it's not a problem at all now to work with harvesting machine.
It became an advantage.
Yeah.
And I'm tasting the wine, so as we speak, I think this is exactly like you said. We've got loads of freshness, but you managed to retain the fruitiness from the Chardonnay. And what I can get from this tasting, which I think is really iconic in the Chardonnay, is that peach. So then now it kind of really tied up quite nicely with, where the name is coming from. So again, little pronunciation. So avoir la pêche. So on this one, two origins actually. So avoir la pêche, so means to have the peach. So being super peachy, which is, energetic. You wake up in the morning, you will say j'ai la pêche. So this is something as well that we say every day. If you go in France, you'll say j'ai la pêche. People will get what you're saying. So obviously here, the idea is to link that expression to the style of the wine. So just a little bit of story on j'ai la pêche. So the peach is apparently linked to the Chinese, so 3rd century. The peach had apparently this immortal synonym to it. So when you had a peach in a Chinese garden, it means we're about to be immortal. Unfortunately, we can't claim that these wines will, I mean, hopefully one day. But yeah, so that was the first angle. The peach has like the symbol of immortality. So it's like this, that gives you energy. And then you've got the second meaning, which is in boxing competition. When you take a peach in your face, it's actually, well, it's a knockout. So I think I really love the two, like the history behind these expressions, because they just tied up so nicely with that style of wine that's, you know, super refreshing, super peachy. And then you've got like this sort of like lively acidity that lifts the whole thing. So yeah, avoir la pêche. Definitely, I've got the peach now. So yeah. So now moving on to our rosé.
Yeah, bonne mine.
Bonne mine, which means.
So bonne mine. Another example. That if you select beautiful fruit in the vineyard, if you let the nature do the job to begin with, the winemaking process after it's easier, obviously. It's an example with this Grenache rosé, so pure Grenache rosé, selected fruit, gentle press, just to extract the juice gently, selection of juice in order to only have the best juice of the Grenache. As you can see, we are working on pale color to fit to the trend at the moment, and the result is that we have a perfect summer rosé with roundness, aroma, but at the end still the liveliness that we have on all of the range for the white and the rosé. Yes, and as soon as you drink a glass of this wine, you have a bonne mine, obviously. And, yeah, we are quite proud of this rosé because it's an accessible wine, a good value for money for a glass of rosé like this. It's perfect by the glass, but it could fit perfectly and pair with food also. So, yeah.
I mean, yeah, from the color to the profile of the wine, this, you know, again, aperitivo, light meal, you know, I had that 2 weeks ago when I sent you that Instagram. It was actually my first rosé of 2020, and it was just absolutely outstanding. You've got this strawberry going on, and like you said, so with this wine here, the link with the expression is really, so number one, it gives you that bonne mine. So in French, with bonne mine, we'll say, well, sort of beautiful face. So like you blushing a bit, which kind of links, you're blushing, yeah. So yeah, it's like associated with the color of the wine. So yeah, it's just you know, a very pleasurable, again, super approachable rosé. And what we want is just people, you know, to enjoy a fabulous rosé, vin de France, nothing complicated, and something that gives you a bonne mine, like we say. So now we're moving on to, guys, we're not going to make a hollow cheese about all of this wine. I had to make the pun. But Eric, I think over to you for the reds.
So we move for tout un fromage. It's not appellation d'origine protégée tout un fromage. It's just pour le vin fromage. My second name in the company is Eric Lerouche, so Guillaume gave me the responsibility of leading the red project for the Pour le Vin ranch. I'm going to try with the 152 customers online the little bottle of the Merlot, and I'd like to tell you a story to start. Do you know why we call these grapes Merlot? I'm sure, Julie, you don't. It looks like the birds that name is Merle love the grapes of Merlot. Okay. And through the years, the Merle gave the name to the grapes that is Merlot. That's a nice story. That's for the next label, by the way, guys.
Yep.
For the two red wines, seriously, that are in the ranch, we've been working in the same spirit than the white, finding the good origin of grapes, the good plot, and trying to extract just the good juice, the good fruit with simplicity. I think that the That's the keyword in the range of Pour le Vin. The Merlot is made in the slopes on the top of Béziers, not so far from, let's say, 30-40 minutes from Montpellier, in the south of France. We pick them, we test them, and it's a very simple fermentation in stainless steel. Little pumping over, remontage, a fermentation that is not that long, so that we extract the good fruit, the good tannins, not too much. End of the story. Simple way of making the wine. We've made here, we have the Merlot, which is 2019 in this bottle. We speak about red fruit, plum. We can go to strawberry, raspberry also, I think. Let me try.
I mean, I always describe this again, it's like a fruit basket. You've got a lot of red, super crunchy, juicy red fruits.
Exactly. And once more, the selection of the fruits, it's a big part of the job.
So yeah, because like you said all the time, like Merlot, and I know Guillaume, we talk about Merlot together all the time. It's very careful because Merlot has a tendency to go a little bit, maybe too much. So keeping that super vibrant fruitiness and crunchiness in the glasses is key. So it can fit within the whole range as well.
If you try that, the people that are watching us, I hope you enjoy it. You could nearly chill it, 1 or 2 degrees would be welcome. It's an easy drink. It's serious. It would definitely match with cheese, with fromage, I can tell you, or any other sort of meat.
So, tout fromage, with the guy spinning the cheese wheel. So a little bit of a history again. So history class on where the expression is coming from. So a whole of cheese. So basically the story behind tout un fromage in French. So back in the 20th century, and I bet I'm gonna teach you something here, even for you guys in France. But so the milk was always perceived as a very simple product back in the 20th century. So people think, yeah, milk is easy, we can drink that. But then turning milk into cheese was always perceived as this, very complicated task. So people had this expression when they used to say, turning milk into a cheese it's so complicated. So then they twist it into saying, we're not going to make a whole cheese out of it. Because let's say it, French people, we have a tendency of making simple things into a whole of a story. So then the expression came about, which says, let's not make a whole cheese out of something. Let's not make it very complicated. And the link here is obviously where we drank that wine. We thought, do you know what? Maybe this with an antipasti, plate and some cheese on it. I think we all sold. So yeah, that was the whole idea behind it, keeping it more so wine pairing. So link with the wine, and that's it. So yeah, tout un fromage.
So, can I say, Julie, we never say tout un fromage. We just say, on va pas en faire tout un fromage.
Exactly.
And the tone is super important, and it changed completely the taste of the wine.
Actually, really good questions from the Netherlands. Why did we decide to go for Merlot and Shiraz? Well, instead of the usual suspect, Cabernet Sauvignon. So I think we've got a little bit of a spoiler for today, actually. But so let's stick to the first answer. So why have we decided Merlot and Shiraz?
That's an easy one. We didn't fall in love with any plot of Cabernet Sauvignon for this project. But Guillaume, you probably have a second option.
It was not. It's going to be a surprise, not a surprise, but we are working on a Cabernet. By the way, obviously we are quite happy and we have a good feedback on this range. So we started carefully. And we are so happy with the feedback on the red that we are working on the Cabernet. We are about to find out the perfect Cabernet to put in bottle. So within a couple of weeks now, we will be able to suggest you a beautiful Cabernet.
I mean, with this range, also the sky is the limit, because how many grape varieties have we got in France? And so on the expression, it's getting more difficult by the day, because finding an expression that really is suitable to the wine. But I hope in the future we're gonna have some amazing Viognier, maybe Malbec and Cabernet. So yeah, really excited. Beth is asking for a lot of Malbec. Yeah, she's been asking for Malbec. So yeah, potentially something we can look into. So now let's move on to Syrah, or Shiraz.
Syrah. See, this is a French
Syrah.
one. Only
It's
Syrah.
the French one. So we're gonna go to Syrah. Fin de Loup. Fame de Loup. So Fin de Loup, Eric, can you just tell us a little bit more about this wine, please?
So Fin de Loup. That's something that we tend to say just before noon, when your stomach starts to make noise. We have a fin de loup. I'm used to say I've got my stomach in my socks, but it's a bad translation of having a fin de loup. This fin de loup is 100% Syrah, not Shiraz. It's French Syrah. And may I say, Julie, that in this range, all the grapes are masculine for the French, except Syrah, which is La Syrah, which is a feminine grape. That said, this Syrah comes from one of the properties with who Guillaume has been working for years. It comes from the region, a little village that we call Saint-Georges d'Orc, not so far from Montpellier. And it's made from AOP terroir. That could be AOP Languedoc. By the way, we are working on IGP, and we've declassified the wine into straight Vin de France. Same sort of spirit in terms of preparation of vinification for this Syrah. Picked, let's say, quite early to avoid to have a too ripe Syrah, and then a pretty simple classic fermentation, monitoring the temperature and tasting every day to keep the fruit and to catch all the typical flavors of Syrah. One thing I'd like to say for the white, for Guillaume, but also for the red. In French, we say pas de chichi. There's no technology. There's no oak. There's no sugar. There's no makeup. This is just good fruit fermented to give a nice extraction. Coming back to the flavors, I think that we are in. It's violet, it's pepper, it's blackberries, without being too ripe. I mean, it says 14 on the label, but we speak about just below 14, which is a nice balance for the Syrah. This is it. Again, slightly chilled. I think it can be super interesting.
No, and it's a very interesting take on Syrah, because you've got it has everything again. So I think with these wines, I keep repeating myself, but I'm just I'm 100% convinced with what you're doing here, because the balance is, you've got this sort of spicy element from the Syrah that you want. You've got this sort of like almost violet twist, and then you've got loads of almost like raspberry. I mean, it's just utterly delicious. You just, to me, I will take a bottle of that, and I will, 100% pleasure, like, for sure. This is absolutely amazing.
We are working, we spoke about Cabernet previously, so we are working exactly on the same project for Cabernet to try to find a good balance between not too green, not too jammy. We are trying to find a perfect style and perfect balance for the Cabernet also.
So on the Syrah, so just to jump on the expression then, because when you taste that, the only thing that's calling for you is a little bit of food. So where we wanted to go with this expression, so we had the wines and we thought, this is calling for some food, and we thought, okay, expression related to food in France. Well, Fin de Loup was a clear winner. The background for all of the Fin de Loup is simply because back in the 17th century, wolves had a bad reputation. So Fin de Loup means wolves' hunger. Bad reputation for eating a lot. So basically we've decided, well, Fin de Loup, starving like a wolf, which is what happens if you don't feed French people. They are starving like wolves. So this is where it's coming from. I think this is, just what the range is all about, having a bit of fun, a little bit of a history, education. And I hope, from the tasting, people got that do not hesitate to give us your feedback. I've actually missed a lot of questions. Sorry, everybody. It was actually hidden on the presenter. So actually now, are you happy to go through 5 minutes of question, guys?
Yeah, no worry. That's why feedback is always important for us. Every year, every vintage, we try to improve and to fit to what people say on the range. Yeah.
We've been asking if there was any so going a little bit more into the specific of the winemaking again. Was there any thermal vinification on the wine, so just to keep that freshness going on, or not?
Any what, Julie, you said?
Thermal vinification.
That's a secret of fabrication. I'm not sure we can say that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. No, and actually, so the next question was, what is going to be the next grape? So I think we've said it. We spoiled everybody with. So the next on the list is going to be the Cabernet Sauvignon. So watch that space, everybody. Actually, I will offer a bottle of the Cabernet if anybody can guess. Obviously, outside of Boutinot, if anybody can guess the name of the next wine that's going to be on Pour le Vin, I'm sending you a bottle of wine free of charge. So don't hesitate to try to guess.
Just Julie, to top up on the specificity of the winemaking process on red, we work a lot with the cold at the beginning of the maceration on red to extract the fruit. We don't push too hard the winemaking process on red because we want to keep soft tannin. And as we said, we want accessible wine. So this kind of red, we are able to enjoy it by the glass or with food. And it is the flexibility of the range which is interesting.
And I think, we've got a comment from Joe Turner. Hey, Joe, I'm glad you enjoyed the tasting. So yeah, it's actually pretty much what he's saying, that it's fantastic that the idioms are linking to the wine. J'ai mal à la tête, but really considered proposition that will no doubt help demystifying France. And I think that's a great note to finish on. It's exactly what we're trying to do here. Just reviving a little bit what France has to offer, trying to be extremely super approachable, keep it simple. And, wine at the end of the day is meant to be enjoyed. And today, honestly, I've got nothing to say. I've got my specific favorite for the Chardonnay and the Shiraz today. I think, guys, it's an amazing range and I can't see it. I can't wait to see what the future holds for the wine. So, I think I'll finish on that. I don't know if you've got anything to add, but it's been amazing.
You spoke about simplicity, Julie, and it's exactly what we want to highlight on this range, to be simple but efficient. Sometimes the simplicity is as complicated as the complexity.
So simplicity and drinkability is the blend, and a bit of fun on the top of that with the name that have been picked. We try to keep the recipe for the following success.
All right then. Well, thank you guys for the insight on the range. Thank you for everybody who's been commenting. It's been really good fun. If you've got any further questions, do not hesitate to get in touch here with your account manager or the winemakers. We'll come back to you. Thank you, everyone, and hope to see you soon.
Keep for the Cabernet. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.